stop. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nerd Ledger. We're the nerds.
The
I'm Cage.
ledger.
That's chair right over
Chair.
there.
Yep.
Yeah, we are gonna talk about nerd stuff and nerd stuff only today. Okay?
Yeah, that's all we ever talk about. We definitely don't rant about our miserable little lives on this miserable little planet at all, ever.
Yeah.
Or Cage getting robbed of costume contest because corporate America needs to grind him up like mulch.
You know,
I'm sorry that happened to you.
you're not
I'm sorry that
wrong.
happened to you. I'm sorry that
That's
happened to you, by the
it's
way.
all right. It's okay. It's okay. Today we will talk about a little bit of nerd news. You finished Agatha,
Yep.
so we'll talk about all of that as well. And also, I was wrong about the Penguin. Excuse me. For some reason, I thought it was only 6 episodes, but it's 8. So there's still one episode left to come out. So once that comes out, then I'll subscribe and watch all 8 episodes.
Okay. Got it.
Did you watch any of it?
No, not yet. I'm gonna watch it after Agatha. I wanted to finish Agatha first because just having real issues like watching Agatha. I don't know, like why, but like it just. I'm playing the new Dragon Age game right now. It's funny, like if you asked me if there's any big gaming news, and then I immediately closed up. I said I don't know, and then I saw like on Steam, Dragon Age is out, and like I'm a huge Dragon Age fan, so I would have talked about it.
Is
Back
that
then,
the one that everyone's mad about?
It mad mixed reactions. I have my own personal opinions we can get into later whenever you want to have our gaming segment because I know I'm
Well,
like
I do have a gaming piece of news. Well, kind of two, but isn't Dragon Age the one people are mad because of all the like?
It's just one It's just one character in particularly. It's the gender neutral Kunari. It's just there's a whole coming out to the mother about like being gender neutral and all this stuff. And like there's one scene in particular everyone really hones in on where someone misgenders this character, and then that character's like, well, just apologizing isn't good enough, and you have to do. But they were like being bros about it and being like giving each other shit almost. And they had that one person do like 10 push-ups. Because they're all soldiers and killers and mercenaries and stuff like that. So I don't know. Like it's hit or miss for me. The dragon. When we get into the gaming segment today, I'll definitely like go into it more deeper about my thoughts about Dragon Age Veilguard. I haven't finished it yet, but I have pretty strong opinions already about. I think I know what's going on. So
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
my own unique opinions.
in gaming news, Macaulay Culkin from the Home Alone films is going to be in Fallout Season 2. That's all I know. I didn't read the article. I saw the headline and then I didn't find it after this. How big a fan of you are? How big of a fan are you of Mass Effect?
Pretty good. Pretty big one.
Okay, well, apparently Mass Effect is getting a TV show at Amazon.
Oh, I didn't see that. Really? Wow, I didn't. That honestly, like it makes a lot of sense. Like Mass Effect is like it's kind of like Star Trek in a way, where it's kind of easier to hop into that like the belief that they move past like the belief and everything like that, right? Like it's just we found alien technology, we reverse engineer it for FTL, and we met the galactic community. And then now we're like we've integrated our Earth government into the galactic government. Essentially, is kind of what Mass Effect's all about, and it's like really it goes into a lot of detail. The first Mass Effect game has a really great like compendium, kind of like it has like a wiki built into itself with a total voiceover reading all of the lore, and it goes deep into like how the how the Earth dollar translates into the galactic economy, like all this crazy stuff about how galactic crime syndicates got formed and how Earth got involved in that. And like like humans are a very much more aggressive species. Like that's kind of like our thing is like we're really really aggressive. So we like really settled in on the galactic crime front, and like some of the galaxy's like worst arms traders immediately became humans after like 60 years and stuff like that. And it's great. So I definitely see it making an easy jump to film. And also of course depends on who's directing, who's writing. Do they actually give a shit about it? Because like Borderlands had a bunch of high names, but the Borderlands movie was just terrible. Like
Oh,
it
don't
was
worry, I
weird.
got Borderlands news too.
Oh great.
But
I'm so excited.
I'll read the articles to give you all the details you're looking for. So a Mass Effect, yes,
Yeah.
a Mass Effect TV series is officially in development at Amazon Studios. Daniel Casey is set to write and executive produce the adaptation. Kareem Zreik will executive produce under his Cedar Tree Productions banner with Ari Arad and EA's Michael Gamble also executive producing. Cedar Tree is currently under an overall deal at Amazon Studios. Exact plot details are being kept under wraps. It was previously reported in 2021 that Amazon was in negotiations to develop a Mass Effect TV series, but there have been no updates on the project until now. There had also been various attempts to develop a feature film based on the games, but the project never materialized. The first Mass Effect game launched to rave reviews in 2007. Since then,
Long time ago.
yes,
That's when it had 2 discs. It had 2 discs. You had to with a 2 install disc, or if you were playing it on console, when you finished one half of the game, it said please load disc 2. That's how fucking big it was. Mass Effect 1 was a legendary game. Honestly think you would enjoy it because it is pretty actiony. It's a third-person shooter. The first one just feels a little janky though because it was an old school PC game. So like, it has like a little bit of level of jank to it that you just can't get past, but it's not really that bad. It's not that bad. And the voice acting is great. What's his name is Mark Meer. He does really good as Commander Shepard, and then Jennifer Hale, known legendary voice actress, does female Shepard.
Nice.
So and they just consistently deliver. The third one didn't get a lot of good reviews because it ended in a very strange way. That I don't think a lot of people appreciated, but that was just the sign of what was going on. Some issues at BioWare, where they were starting to lose like their writing staff at the time. They started off with the Mass Effect 1 that made this whole science fiction universe essentially, right? That's what this is. It's fucking awesome. It's really cool and it feels very organic and very immersive, right? Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2, especially Mass Effect 2, is like a masterpiece of a game. Literally like one of the best games ever made. I would even recommend you just play Mass Effect 2 instead of playing Mass Effect 1 and just like, have the decisions in the first game made for you. And if you want to change those decisions, you have to load up. It's really cool. You have to save in Mass Effect 1 and 2, you had to import your save from Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2. And it was like really jank how to do it because it was like, I think Mass Effect 2 came out in like 2011 or something like that.
Yeah.
So this is back before like cloud saving and anything like that. Like you had to have it on your hard drive.
Everything was stored locally.
Yeah, you had to find it on your hard drive and double click on it, and then it would scan it and do all this stuff, and they would import it. It was like the coolest thing ever, right? Like that's what happened that's what happened, right? It was like it was the coolest thing ever. Like being able to have your choices. This is one of the first times like this has really happened in Mass Effect 1. A lot of your decisions really impacted your ability, like on Mass Effect 2, right? It really made a big impact. It really did. Like you would get a totally different quest depending on the choices you made, and they're totally different outcomes of the game. So. Yep, Dragon Age did that too. It really did. That's another problem with this last game, but we can talk about it. We can talk about that whenever you're ready.
Well, since the first Mass Effect came out, there have been 3 more games in the series, with Mass Effect Andromeda debuting in 2017. There have also been multiple mobile games in the franchise, as well as animated film novels, comic books, and other media. The story of the first 3 Mass Effect games revolves around Commander Shepard, a human soldier in the 22nd century, trying to save humanity from a race of aliens known as the Reapers. Andromeda moved the games much further into the future with a new protagonist. With the 5th game also in the works, the franchise is developed by BioWare and are now published by EA. Casey, who will be the writer, most recently worked on the screenplay for F9, the Fast Saga, Fast and the Furious. He's also known for his work on films like the sci-fi drama Kin and did rewrites on 10 Cloverfield Lane. He is repped by CAA, writ large, and Hanson Jacobson. Zreich, who is directing, I think, was previously an executive at the now defunct Marvel television unit under Jeff Loeb. During his time with Marvel, he served as executive producer on hit shows like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, The Punisher, and Legion, among several others. Zreich is repped by Ginsberg, Daniels, Callis. Aria Rod had previously produced adaptations of the games Borderlands, Uncharted, and Ghost in the Shell. He also served as an executive producer on Iron Man, Ghost Rider, and the 2006 Blade TV series. So that's your creative team for Mass Effect.
We'll see. You never know. Sometimes magic can come out of nowhere, like...
Yeah, and speaking of Borderlands, film flops like Borderlands have led Lionsgate to steep quarterly losses. CEO John Fetheimer, acknowledges disappointing results. Not just Borderlands, but The Crow also, and some other film flops deflated Lionsgate's quarterly earnings, leading the movie and TV studios to report a loss of $163 million. It was a rough stretch that Lionsgate CEO John Fetheimer attributed to a transitional disrupted and difficult year for our industry, one that saw the studio dealing with the aftershocks from the actors and writers strike of 2023 that brought the industry to a standstill. I think all of this is bullshit. Make good movies and people will go and see them for the most part.
Yep. Yep.
Inside
Video
Out,
game fans just
Inside
want to
Out
see
made $1
their
billion.
characters. Yep.
Whatever, Inside Out 2 or whatever. Movies. There are movies out there that are, Deadpool and Wolverine made over $1 billion. It's a rated R movie. Making a reboot of The Crow, which all the fans told you was a bad idea, especially with Eric Draven, and then making the changes that you made and then trying to sell it as anything other than a pile of steaming dog shit was a mistake. And Borderlands was a movie that was like stuck in production hell for years, wasn't it? Or something like that.
And switched actors, and like one of the writers hated it so bad that he like turned off it, like he used a pseudonym. So keep that in mind. That's how bad, and it was just bad. Like I watched it, it was a bad movie. Like it just wasn't compelling. It didn't grab you. Like everyone felt really stiff. The writing didn't really connect, and the plot didn't really mean anything. And rabble. Watch it for yourself. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you don't really care at the end when the villain like does the big bad die. You don't fucking care about anything. So you're just fans didn't get what they wanted either. Like these weren't very good representations of their characters they wanted to see.
Yeah.
And the only good part about it was that the guns looked cool. Like briefly when they zoomed in on them, that was it. Nothing else like was really interesting or anything like that. Like the cosplay all felt really cheap. That was another big problem.
Yeah.
So, but again, just watch it for yourself and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It just wasn't very good. And Mass Effect. I wanted to succeed. I love Mass Effect a lot, and I hope it succeeds. You should absolutely make good movies and shows. Absolutely.
Yep.
It'll succeed because it's good. That's why things should succeed, because they have good, interesting writing, different plots, or the same plot retold in an interesting way. Unique dialogue, different kinds of different new jokes, funny jokes, and things that make you laugh, all kinds of that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, in what is perhaps the biggest news of the day and the week so far, Star Wars news. There's some Star Wars news.
Oh, that's the trio. That's right. I've been seeing them blowing up everywhere.
So, Star Wars. We have Simon Kinberg, who is popular from the original X-Men films. I think the original ones. He's worked on a bunch of X-Men films. He's set to write and produce a new trilogy for Lucasfilm. A new Star Wars trilogy. Simon Kinberg is heading into hyperspace, signing an expansive deal to write and produce a Star Wars feature trilogy. Kinberg would spearhead the launching of a new saga in the beloved galaxy far, far away, and will write the scripts for what Lucasfilm hopes would chart a brand new path forward for the sci-fi space opera universe. Lucasfilm topper Kathleen Kennedy will also produce the new trilogy. The new story is not meant to be a continuation of the Skywalker saga, the name of the overall arc of the popular and pop culture dominating Star Wars movies known as Episodes 1 through Episode 9. The intent here is to have brand new characters and a new story, and not have it be a continuation, sources tell The Hollywood Reporter, although that does not mean that some of those characters could not or would not pop up. Kinberg already has strong Star Wars ties. He co-created the animated series Star Wars Rebels with Dave Filoni as well as Carrie Beck. The Emmy-nominated they forgot a word, but it ran for 4 seasons, 2014 to 2018. He also helped out on the relaunch of Star Wars after Disney bought Lucasfilm, acting as consultant on 2015's The Force Awakens. Kinberg is an established presence in the genre space. He had a hand in the Fox X-Men movies, being one of the producers of Logan and the first 2 Deadpool movies, among many other creative duties. And he is about to go into production on Edgar Wright's take on Stephen King's tale, The Running Man, for Paramount. The writer-producer is one of the busiest creatives in town, and he's helping develop the rival Star Trek franchise for Paramount, a deal he stepped into this past spring. He was due to take on an active producing role on the franchise's film side. Sources say he will maintain those duties, keeping one hand on a lightsaber and the other on a phaser. Lucasfilm has tried to chart different paths forward before Kennedy previously signed filmmaker Ryan Johnson to develop a trilogy, as well as Game of Thrones creators David Benioff and D.B. Wise. None of those came close to fruition, with the company facing occasional scrutiny over the years, which is why I think this doesn't matter at all. I saw this news, and my first reaction was, I don't care, because it's hard to be
Yeah.
emotionally invested in anything that Lucasfilm announces when months later they either delay or cancel those projects. Kevin Feige was supposed to have a
Yeah.
Star Wars film. David Benioff and D.B. Wise. Ryan Johnson was supposed to have a trilogy. This Daisy Ridley Ray movie that's now on hold. That was announced like 5 months ago, and then 2 months later it's on indefinite hold. I don't know what's going on at Lucasfilm, but they need to really prioritize what they want to do, and just do it. I mean, there are cases, of course, such as The Mandalorian and Grogu, which has wrapped filming, where it's been announced and then worked through production, whatever. But that doesn't seem to be the case for most Star Wars things.
Mm.
I don't know how you feel about this, but unless it unless
I
unless
don't really see it. I'm just saying the same thing. Like, same thing with less words. I don't care. Like, put out, don't like, that's why I don't like do social media that much. Or like, I didn't know Dragon Age was coming out until it slapped me in the face. I don't follow these things anymore because like my freaking serotonin freaking hype machine has been broken my brain from just being whipped up, into a frenzy over certain products that just failed to deliver. I think this really started with Game of Thrones, when things just started to fall apart, and like, one of my favorite series that I've been enjoying for so long just started like just drove off a cliff, right? Like, and I stopped like following things, and the House of the Dragon was cool, and there were some parts of it that were cool. I did watch it like in a more serious way recently, but it just didn't excite me like the way the first few seasons did. Like the first 4, like 5 seasons of Game of Thrones are some of the best TV I've ever watched in my entire life. Like it's impossible not to get gripped, at least in my own personal opinion. I'm sure there's some people that don't like it because it's too violent or because they don't like the full, graphic nudity or something like that. But I just like it's okay. They're making a new Star Wars trilogy. That's great. What else do you have to
yeah,
show me? Do you have any? And we got these people to write it. Like that's
it's
great. You
the
got JJ. You
it's
got JJ Abrams for the first one, and then like he didn't even want to do it, and it got all fucked up. And then you kick
right.
the movie back between two people who. One guy who didn't want to make a movie, and one dude, Ryan Johnson, who probably would have honestly made a better trilogy if he'd just been able to control all three, right?
Well, it's the epitome
And
of like, we'll have to wait and see, really. Like that is
yeah,
really what it
exactly.
is, because like to me, this is, first of all, sure, the detail that it's not going to be part of the Skywalker saga, right? It's not going to revolve around the Skywalkers. To me, that's a good thing. Like these
Mm,
characters, like just let them be at this point. But like, are
yeah.
they gonna reach into lore? Are they gonna try to do something that people have been begging for years in the Old Republic? Is it gonna take place after the events
I thought
of?
I could have sworn I've seen things that say, "Oh, it's going to be part of the Skywalker saga." Like
Well, that's
I
another one. Taika Waititi was supposed to do a Star Wars movie. What happened with that?
exactly, dude.
Like
And
so
like
many
all
people have been
like
attached to Star Wars films.
I wish they would just announce like an Old Republic because the Old Republic to me is the natural next step. It's a setting that already has a hardcore group of fans. So you already have a group of people that are going to be really attracted, liking things on social media, watching your videos. Like fans, right? Hardcore fans.
Yeah. Well,
It's like so far away from anything to do with the modern setting that it like nothing that matters happens. The skull Dude, the wars that happened back then were so badass. The Mandalorians invaded the galaxy and almost conquered the Republic, and then they were only fought off by a group of rogue Jedi's that basically found like rallied under this. Basically, he became like a Jedi warlord, a rogue Jedi warlord, and like just freaking flexed on all of the Mandalorians with like super tactics and the fact that Jedi's are really overpowered in combat. They really are. Like they like like we saw like in the Modern Republic stuff where instead of having Jedi's like leading columns of clone troopers, they were leading columns of Republic soldiers. And it was like super badass, and they were killing everybody. And then they get kidnapped and going off into fucking deep space. They find this basically what's a equivalent of a Death Star. That instead of it destroying planets, it feeds off suns to freaking build like infinite machines that are like channeled with the dark side energy or whatever the fuck, because it was made by the Rocketons, you know. And then there's all this deep lore they can get into. there's like, so you got like the man, and then they come back and they fight this giant civil war with like, the Sith versus Jedi civil war, where there's these badass Sith versus Jedi fights going on all the time, while the Republic troopers and the Sith troopers in their own badass armor with their own badass fighters are shooting at each other in the background. Like, just come on, man. Like, damn, dude. Like, there's like the designs are already there. They're iconic designs. Like, they're designs that people enjoy and like looking at, right? And it's just, there's so many things like that they could make movies about that are super badass and awesome, and really could enjoy these giant budgets that Disney is capable of giving them access to, right?
Yeah.
Because everything is big set piece. Like, the Mandalorians did invade, almost take over the galaxy. Like, you didn't play Kodar 2. I played Kodar 2, dude. Canderous Ordo is like, oh, he's like, basically at some point he's like, he has no reluctance of what he did during the Mandalorian War. And one of my favorite lines that he says is like, you Mandalorian, like, basically one of the dialogue choices you can pick is Mandalorians couldn't have taken over the entire galaxy. Like, eventually you would have been stopped. And he was like, but we were so close. We were so close. Like, he says it way better than I do it. But the way, like, and it's just, there's so many things. There's so many things.
Yeah. Like, imagine
and even then they try to make like their own High Republic thing. Like, why? Like, and then they just try and tie it into the original trilogies anyway, because that's what everybody wants to see. Because they all love the Phantom Menace and the three, and I fucking hate the Clone Wars.
They do now, but
yeah,
like, imagine they announce we're gonna do a new trilogy, and then they say it's not related to Skywalkers, but people then still assume it's gonna take place around the time of that, right? But like, imagine they say we're gonna do a new trilogy, and it's gonna be the Darth Bane trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a way to get fans excited. But instead, all they're like, oh, we're going to make a trilogy. Remember the last 3 times we announced making a trilogy that never happened? Yeah, well, we're going to totally do it for real this time.
You know what else? Even put all the bullshit aside, there are trilogies they can make that are engaged with the Galactic Civil War that would have been fucking badass. Like, what if they made Rogue Squadron into a movie? With all the background characters in Star Wars teaming up to go fight some big bad evil while Luke and Leia and, Han are off in another section of the galaxy doing something, right? Like, there are just so many things they could do. There's so many things they could do, but I don't know why they want to continue the Skywalker trilogy and like do. I just don't know, man.
I've never been a big fan of Rogue Squadron for maybe a really dumb reason, but to me, it's like the only reason they use X-wing fighters to fight the Death Star is because they're small and fast, and the lasers on the Death Star defenses can't easily destroy them. Like, if they tried like a massive assault with big ships, like, they would just get shredded to bits because,
Yeah, it's
like
covered in guns. It was bristling with guns. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the only reason they use small attack fighters. But now it's like they use them for everything now, not just because of the Death Star. Like, it's just like they're everywhere all the time.
Well, the X-wing was all in the lore, quote unquote, the T-65B, and as I pushed up my glasses, but the X-wing was a very advanced fighter, and the whole thing with the fact that it could carry proton torpedoes was a huge thing in Star Wars lore. Like, it also has a hyperdrive built in and all this other crazy shit. Like, it was tricked out. But then a lot of scientists that were really sympathetic to the rebellion, like, left and took the X-wing with them and gave it to the rebellion. It's like the reason they can take on TIE fighters and shit, because TIE fighters in their own right are really overpowered.
But TIE fighters can't go through light speed. So.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. That's why the X-wing is better.
Well, yeah.
Well,
is it all X-wings or is it just Luke's?
No, it's all X-wings. All X-wings are hyperdrive capable. But like, that burns coaxium fuel or whatever the fuck, right?
Yeah.
So you can't coaxium. You can't hyperspace wherever. I think the Rogue Squadron stuff was really fan servicey though, like, in its own right. A lot of it was just jerking off about like other stuff going on in the Galactic Civil War or post Galactic Civil War at the time.
Yeah.
But it was cool. At least it's cool and fun to read. Like, Admiral Akbar's like, oh, I'm sending you guys on this dangerous mission, and then you all go on like a dangerous mission. It's like really fun.
Yeah. I mean, I like Wedge Antilles.
Yeah, Wedge is cool. He's like the
leader. One of the leaders.
Yeah, he's a leader. Yep. Yeah. And there's like, people looking for redemption, like, and there's this whole thing about the TIE squadrons too, about that they have a lot of lore too.
Too bad Porkins didn't make it.
Porkins did not make it. Nope. He should have he should have pulled out.
He should have pulled out. He should have pulled out.
Porkins went all in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, All right, that's it for the news. You finished Agatha All Along. After 3
Yeah.
episodes, you enjoyed some you found boring. It was, not a straight watch for you. How do you feel now after 9 episodes of Agatha All Along?
It was pretty good. Um, I didn't hate it. I enjoyed like the tarot card scene about how all the plot was tying into itself and everything, and how like the house is tied back in Agatha's past and all that kind of stuff from those different eras when she killed the witches and who the Salem Six are. It's actually a couple of witches, not just like six, but it's actually like all the covens that she's betrayed and a lot of this and that, and like to stave death off till then, and then death comes back now, and I really liked Aubrey Plaza's death. Spoilers, by the way.
Yeah, spoiler
Major
warning if you haven't watched it. Yeah,
spoilers, warning, major
we
spoilers.
knew
Yeah.
she was death from episode 1, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, but also that scene where she had the skull as a face was really good. I
Yeah.
really appreciated that a lot.
It was all practical, too.
Yeah, it looked really really good. I mean, that stuff is really hard. They have to stand still essentially for like 10 hours while someone like slaps a bunch of shit on your face, and I'm sure like she must have had some. She could only breathe out through her nose. So imagine like only breathing out through her nose for like 10 hours for like 13 or 14 hours, and having all this plastic shit all over your face, and then being
Yeah.
told to act to of it. So it's that kind of stuff that makes Hollywood. That's why it's called
Well,
movie magic, baby.
her outfit, like her whole attire in like the last episode was really, really good. Really well done.
Yeah. Yeah, well, okay, so let me ask you this. Did it also look really comic book accurate?
Well,
Is that why you enjoyed it a lot? Like,
not
'cause of the
really. It
costume and
just looked,
everything?
it just was nice,
Yeah, it's
Wiccan,
nice.
well, or William or whatever. Billy's costume was pretty close to comic book accurate.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Billy was the Scarlet Witch's kid. He like psychically projected himself out, and then like he found some dude who just died apparently in a car wreck, and he possessed his body, and his parents were all freaked out, like, "Who are you? Like, I know you're not my son," all this shit.
Well, he was also quite confused. He didn't know who he was either.
Yeah, and then he became like an edgy goth with a boyfriend. That was fun and cute and stuff. And then he went back to being the Scarlet Witch's son. So there was that, and he's we got really powerful and learned a lot of lessons. Learned a lot of life lessons on the way, and so did Agatha, and she kind of semi-sacrificed herself. She became a ghost. That was pretty cool. That sequence they were fighting was pretty dope, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we knew. Well,
I think just to finish my thoughts, but I think for me the apex of that episode was that whole tarot card scene. With the Green Witch about the cycle of life and death, like jumping between different moments in her life, like trying to figure things out was very interesting. And the tarot cards are a lot of it was a very symbolic episodes because it naturally was using tarot cards, right? So tarot cards are very symbolic. That's what they are. Just a symbol. I appreciated that episode, like, is from a literary standpoint and from like a symbolism is like hard to do intentionally. So
yeah, I feel like this is one of those shows where like on a second watch you get so much more out of it because so much of the early stuff, aside from the Darkhold, which they kind of abandoned after like the first episode, but aside from that, like because they heavily implied, and maybe it's because you have to go back on this and realize that like almost everything from episode like 2 forward is entirely from Billy's point of view. And so like he doesn't know the story of Nicholas Scratch. He doesn't understand any of that. And from his perspective, it sounds like she traded her son for the Darkhold, which was, if that was the original plot point, completely abandoned. That's not what happened. Or maybe it is, but they don't explain any of that, right? All they really show you in the end is that when Agatha was pregnant, her son was supposed to die. Like death came for her son. And
she was there, and that was a really intense scene, And then she gave him for like a few months, but he was always really sick and stuff like that.
Well, I think her deal with Agatha was, you keep giving me bodies, and I'll keep giving him life. And I think that because when he actually died, right, he was sick already, and he begged his mom that night, well, you can kill more witches tomorrow. If I strongly believe if she would have killed witches that night, Nicholas would have lived. Like he would get sick and he would get better as long as she kept feeding death. Right? Yeah. Which is why the whole Witches Road exists. It was a massive scam to kill witches Well, after Nicholas died in his memory, but like, she would kill witches and he would live. And
Yep,
when she
exactly.
stopped killing witches, he died.
Immediately, yeah.
And
I
because
guess
of
that's
that,
true.
she
Yeah.
she kept just killing witches, and using this lie of the witch's road, right?
Yep.
Which then leads people to think, so was the witch's road even real? Uh,
And then it
and
was Billy Romanov doing it. Billy's his name, right? He's Billy, or is he Tommy?
yeah, is Billy Kaplan,
Okay.
William Kaplan, who becomes not Romanov.
Yeah.
That's Natasha. That's
Oh,
Black
sorry,
Widow.
not Romani.
Uh,
The other Russian lady, the Russians with the Russian sounding name, with the Scarlet
uh,
Witch son, whatever. You know what I mean?
Maximov. Yeah,
Maximov. There you
Billy
go. Yep.
Maximov. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh, yeah. So essentially, he creates it unknowingly.
Yep. Yep. It was all me. It was all me. Yep.
Yeah, but he didn't know that, right? Until
Yep.
he's in his room and he's like, "Oh shit! Look at all the things that are in my room that were also, a part of the Witch's Road." And yeah,
Yep.
that's looking back on it, you're like, all the ways Agatha reacted to so many things, like, make
Mm.
much more sense. But
Because she doesn't know what she actually doesn't know what's going on. Yeah. So she's
yeah,
just making it up. Yeah.
but the deaths were permanent, other than Agatha, who turns into a ghost, because she can't face the afterlife, where she'll find her son probably, and so she's still there, she's still around, haunting Billy. So
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. Like, I think I thought it was really well worked and really well done, and the story of her and her son is very sad.
Yep.
So were you thoroughly entertained, or were you just kind of like, oh yeah,
I was
interesting,
sure.
but whatever?
I was thoroughly entertained. Yeah, I drifted between both, right? Like I said, during that tarot card scene was very well done. It was very symbolic, sacrifice, like all that stuff that I fall in love with immediately. So I really just like I said, I've been staying up late gaming lately, so I've been playing it on the other monitor, and there are times when I was watching the series and I just kind of tuned out, like when he was just and when Billy was, I don't know who I am. I'm an edgy goth. I'm gonna text my boyfriend because I'm so angsty. I don't know. Like I was tuning out for kind of that kind of stuff because I don't really tune in for teenage angst, right? Like that's not my kind of thing. But I was definitely tuned in. Like my game was paused, like for that whole tarot card. That basically like the 40 minutes of that episode 7, I think it was. And then for all the last episode, like the story when it just goes right into what happened, what really happened, and it's just
Hmm.
like, okay, now we're just gonna like it was like the second last episode that was like, okay, now here's the story of Agatha,
Yeah.
like just straight up, So I think I pretty much had my game paused for that whole episode because it was
Yeah.
really compelling and sad and intense. And then the last episode,
Yeah, I almost think it
I
was a
don't know,
mistake doing that episode second to last, because then the finale like felt a little
yeah,
underwhelming.
it did, and I'm a little worried too, and I want to run this by you too. Like when I saw him standing there, like with Ghost Agatha behind him, I'm really worried that we're gonna have like a movie soon where it's like him and Ghost Agatha and a bunch of other heroes from like different series, and they all just look completely different, and they all gonna look really bad when they're standing around next to each other, and they're not gonna be able to really engage with each other in an organic way that's gonna be good. And I'm worried they're gonna start making like bad Marvel movies based off these shows. What do you think about that?
I think that would be a mistake. Um,
You,
and I don't think
mm-hmm.
they would actually do that. I think like these shows work well for what they are, but as far as building part like to be part of the MCU in a greater way, I think
Mm-hmm.
that would be a mistake. Um,
Yeah.
the
So
only
I feel like that's where they're going a little bit, like Secret Wars. I think it's when this shit started being really important, what was going on Disney Plus, because it happened during COVID. It was the only thing they could squeeze out essentially, and then that kind of
yeah,
became like the
it,
norm.
unless they build something around Agatha where she eventually gets resurrected, like it's not uncommon,
Mm,
or whatever, like, or helps bring Wanda back through the Witch's Road. There are comic books like that, where
mm,
like the Witch's Road is a real thing, um,
mm.
or whatever, or she gets resurrected and then goes and babysits for the Richards or whatever, like she does in comic books as well. Like I don't know where there's no organic way for me to see Agatha really interacting with a group of superheroes on a higher scale.
Yeah.
I can see Billy being recruited by Kamala Khan or whatever for this Young Avengers initiative thing, where we already seen her try to recruit Kate Bishop. Um, and I think the Young Avengers is a direction they want to go and kind of step away from the multiversal kind of thing,
Mm.
just because there haven't been great responses to it. So I think Young Avengers is a thing, but I think they'll do it more in the mold of the first Avengers movie, where you get a group of people together who don't really know each other, have some egos or whatever, and the only way to really resolve those things is to have them fight, right?
Mm.
And that's the brilliance of the first Avengers movie is like, oh, we're not all just gonna unite and be a great team all of a sudden, right? You know, we got Iron Man talking about Thor, Shakespeare in the Park.
Mm.
Doth thy mother know you wearest her drapes? Um,
Mm.
you know, you got Hulk and Thor fighting. You got Iron Man and Captain America fighting, and all right. Like they have to work out those problems before they can actually be a team.
Yeah.
And so if the young Avengers, if Gen Z Avengers get together and they're all just chilling, like
And they're all
texting on
being
their phones,
cringe. And that's
yeah.
that's what I'm worried is gonna happen, man. Like, isn't Agatha like a ghost over his shoulder now? Essentially, she's kind of like escorting him around. Isn't that
I
how the
think
show
I
ended?
don't think she would be present in a young Avengers film.
I think she would be. She would be there all the time, and I think it's gonna be really cringe. That's the problem. She's gonna be like the trying to make like relatable Zoomer jokes, like them, and like I don't know. I'm just worried. I'm just starting to be worried about these shows and like what direction they're going in. But maybe all that will go away when the new Daredevil comes out.
Yeah, I think Marvel will be more successful if it worries less about how to integrate everything into the greater MCU and worry more just
Mm,
about putting out a good product, right? Like us as
yeah.
fans, we've been trained to do this, but we really shouldn't be or shouldn't have to be talking about, well, what does this lead to? How does it tie in? What's next? Like it should really just be how well did this series do in our minds? Did we enjoy it? And that's it. I don't think we need more of this.
Mm,
Um, but I don't know. Like I don't like because then I think to the future, right? Wonder Man, which comes out next Christmas or time or whatever, next December. I
mm,
I don't know how they're gonna integrate Wonder Man, but I don't really think it matters, right? Um, Ironheart, which right we got Ironheart in Wakanda Forever. Now this series, she's gonna hopefully be doing her own thing. Like she doesn't need to be integrated into anything else necessarily.
mm,
Like you can exist within a world without everything having to feel small because it always ties back to everything else, right?
mm,
Um, but they have to be really smart about how they do it because you can't just have like something massive on a massive scale happen and everybody has to be involved, right? Like
mm,
we need Marvel to get back to what it does best, and I think what it does best is things like Daredevil and Spider Man, right? Like street
mm,
level heroes who are concerned about helping people and saving people and doing what's right. Like you don't see a lot of superheroes stopping muggings in the MCU, right?
mm,
Because it's bigger than that. It's all galactic. It's all multiversal. It's all about saving the world and saving the universe and saving everything else, right? Like it's never about saving some lady getting mugged in the street anymore.
mm,
And so I think if the more we can get back to that, and not for everyone, because there are certain heroes, right? Like you don't expect to see Iron Man stopping a mugging, right? Like you just
yeah.
wouldn't. But let heroes be in their areas and do what they're great at, which I think they really tried to do with the first Spider-Man with Tom Holland, because that's what Iron Man kept telling him, right? Tony Stark kept telling him, like, you need to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. You need to worry about what's going on here and stop worrying about
Mm,
all these other things, right?
yeah.
And I think that's what they've done well for the most part with Spider-Man. But then they do tie him into these big galactic universal things because he's fucking Spider-Man, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's a symptom of the great things they've done to build this interconnected universe, but it's also a consequence of that where now you have to try to make everything work and always go bigger and always go badder and always have all these things that build upon each other instead of kind of letting things be what they are and exist in their own space.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree completely. you know, and I just hope they don't lose their way. So although you know the Marvel movies recently have been like just surprises, like you know Shang-Chi was really good. Multiverse of Madness is really good. Um, for the most part.
Yeah.
What else? What else? What damn? What's the last? Oh, and then Deadpool vs Wolverine, which I guess is technically a Marvel movie now. That's right.
Yeah, I mean
So
Wakanda Forever,
Wakanda Forever was really good. Yeah.
Quantumania, The
Eh.
Marvels.
Yeah. Well, no,
Those
I
are the
enjoyed Quantumania. That's right. Because I like the I like the I like the weird sci-fi. So that's right.
yeah,
That's why I like Quantumania. Yeah.
yeah,
Marvels. Did I see the Marvels? I did. I did. That's
yeah,
right. And that's right. And it was like a part musical. They had a musical sequence that pissed everyone off. And I actually kind of liked it because I was like,
yeah.
okay, they're just trying to piss everybody off. And then I went to the
Well,
internet. Everyone's pissed
people were pretty mad about the Flurkins, I think, as well. The cats, the cats
off.
being the vessels to save people.
Yeah, that was kind of weird, but maybe that was like a comic book plot or something. I don't know.
No, it's
It's
just
just
to me it's a movie that like you shouldn't take too seriously because like even though there are
yeah,
serious aspects of it, like it's just a turn your brain off kind of movie. Like it's
yeah,
there's nothing about it that you're like holy shit what a fucking amazing pushing the envelope movie. But there's also like nothing where you're like oh this is fucking awful dog shit turn it off. Like it's just an enjoyable movie whatever just,
yeah,
in my
absolutely.
opinion. So
Yeah, no, no, it's an enjoyable movie. I would watch it again if someone asked me to watch it with them. You know, now am I
yeah.
gonna go watch it? I've been really watching a lot of repeats lately. That's why I like whack anime because there's always kind of something new, sort of always coming out, right?
Hmm.
Um, I
Yeah.
also enjoyed that. Whoever played, I forgot who played Captain Marvel in that one, but
Brie Larson.
she did, Brie Larson. She did a lot better job in that
She
movie.
was much less wooden and
Yeah, but she was like wooden in the right way, right? Because she was like a dumb, she's kind of like an idiot, like a dumb soldier, right? But it was like also like a wounded soldier.
yeah.
So yeah, and
Yeah.
then she was like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's pretty much it for topics. I don't know if you wanted to talk about Dragon Age more.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about I'll yap about Veilguard for a few 17 minutes so we can get the full hour. I'm just kidding, maybe a little bit. But what I was gonna say is that Dragon Age Veilguard and this will be really short and sweet, and let's see what your reaction is to this. Because I think you might enjoy the idea. Dragon Age Veilguard feels like that there was this game that came out before called Dragon Age Inquisition, and Dragon Age Inquisition was a really good game. I don't it sold okay, like you know, but it also came out at a time when a little game called Skyrim called out. Have you ever heard of that game before,
Oh,
Cage?
yes, I've heard of Skyrim. Elder
Yeah,
Scrolls.
Elder Scrolls Skyrim came out, so that was a really hard year to compete. That was a really good year for RPGs, basically, is what I'm saying. And then Witcher 3 came out, which is also another really good RPG in its own right. I haven't played it yet myself. I really should, but I haven't yet.
I've actually played a bit of
Um,
it because
Witcher 3?
yeah, I think it was like free or it was like
No.
$10 or something for the
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
probably on. It's probably free on Epic. That's why I like subscribe to Epic Games because sometimes like
I
yeah,
was
I have
on the
Death Stranding on it.
PlayStation Store.
All right, yeah. Did you play more of it or did you just get bored?
Uh, I played a little bit of it.
Or did you just get confused or
I
something like
played
that?
about an hour of it, and then I just
Okay,
never
yeah.
went back to it. But
Yeah, not much of a gamer. Yeah. So with that being said, though, Witcher 3, but Dragon Age Inquisition is a very, very good RPG. Dragon Age Origins was an amazing RPG with a very good setting. It was kind of just. I think you would really enjoy it if you played the game. You would appreciate the setting. And like the work that goes into it, like Mass Effect, right? Dragon Age Inquisition came out. Dragon Age Inquisition was like amazing. It was like low key amazing. Everybody who touched that game loved it. Like the reviews on Steam are phenomenal. Always like they were phenomenal when they came out. It didn't have any issues or any glitches or any bugs or anything like that. It was just a really fun game to play, right? All the romances were really compelling. I played through as a male and a female. I almost never do that in RPGs because I don't know why, but I just have this weird thing where I always got to play a guy in RPGs. I don't know, just weird like that. But I still wanted to play the female romances because I really enjoyed Blackwell's character and I really enjoyed the romance. Like it was just, it was good. Um, I enjoy the magic. Mages are essentially cursed, like with magic, and they can get possessed by demons if they become too emotional. It's kind of sort of Warhammer 40k chaosy, but it is what it is. Like everything's stepping stone from everything else. Everything's inspired from everything else. People forget how old 40k is. It was started in the 80s, so it's been around for a long time now. The 80s are like 60 years ago now, so it's just you got to remember that was a really long time. Um, so yeah. And it was all really good. And then Dragon Age Inquisition came out. Something the BioWare had a lot of studio issues. All of a sudden, a lot of writers left. They were acquired by EA. They went all in on Anthem. Anthem was a complete and total flop, and it was just like a because you're flying around in giant mech suits, right? How do you fuck that up? Like you have to work hard to fuck that up, right? And that's what they did. They worked really hard to make a bad game. That's what happened. Studio had serious issues for a long time. They made Andromeda. Andromeda, I'll talk about it a little bit because you mentioned it. I'm here to fill time anyway, video game segment and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Andromeda was a good game to play. It was very enjoyable to play. The plot was very weak. But the problem is that they had a serious problem, which is again in Veilguard, and again with weak side characters like your companions that you spend all the game with, and really weak dialogue. Like Andromeda, the problem was is that all the characters just felt like rehashings of the character we had from the original Mass Effect trilogy, and not like anything new or anything like that. And they got so it got really boring really quick, and it made you nostalgic for the characters that were there from before, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what happened with Andromeda. But the gameplay was really fun. It looked really good. I found the overall plot to be very compelling. I did find it to be very compelling. So, keep that in mind. That it was not a bad game. It just had it's a game with a lot of issues, and Mass Effect, and when it came out on launch, it was really bad. It looked like shit. And it still kind of looks like shit. I'm not gonna lie. And it just following up with the Mass Effect trilogy, just following up with Anthem, was just a story of failure at BioWare. They just made everyone really depressed. So I think everyone was a little extra harder on Andromeda than they should have been. So then we don't get anything out of BioWare for a very long time until they start saying, okay, we're working on the new Dragon Age. And I played this game, and it really feels like that they got they wrote. It feels like whoever finished Dragon Age Inquisition wrote the immediate sequel, because Dragon Age Inquisition did end to a point where it led into a sequel very naturally, right?
Mm.
There was another character out there with a bone to pick with the world. He was very powerful, and he said he was going to do something about it, right? That's a natural next step into a good sequel. When there's still characters in the world you made that are willing to do things that can shake up the balance of power in the world in major ways. And it wasn't like foreshadowing. He's just like, I'm still alive. There's no reason for him to be killed. He still needs to go do these things in the world because he's compelled to, because this is who his character is, right?
Because he's Dwayne the Rock
Drag
Johnson.
No,
Oh,
because he's soulless and he's like an immortal elf. And a long time ago, he was like a part of these like spirit. He was part of part of an order of wizards essentially that became very powerful. And then the other wizards started becoming gods, and they started enslaving people and started doing super hyper evil shit. Like Dragon Age is really fucked up. Like right,
but
really
he
fucked up.
would
There's
say that the balance of power is
The balance of
shifting.
power needed to shift. It needed to shift. Yep, it
Uh
needed
huh.
to shift.
Uh
So
huh.
he created this thing called the Veil, which essentially closed off magic from the world, right? And he sealed all the elven gods away, but also none of the elves were all the elves were mortal again. Kind of a little bit of Warcrafty. All the elves are mortal again. They couldn't use they weren't all naturally magic like they used to be in the past. And even worse, humans were starting to pop up, and they treated the elves like shit. And that's another serious
Imagine that.
problem that yeah, and then the humans really started to treat them like shit. And then we cut, and then here comes Veilguard. So Dragon Age had the humans like enslaved the elves, like it was like slavery, but like it was like this kind of a slavery in our world, right? Just total chattel slavery, second class citizen status. There was this empire called Tevinter, which like enslaved elves en masse, and just that they were like subhuman. Tevinter was ruled by magisters, by human mages, like so it's basically the same thing but worse because they were humans and they weren't mortal, so they were always infighting all the time. And they spread out, conquer the world with blood magic, which is like if you have someone else's blood, you can essentially use if you're a magician, you can use the blood to control them, right? That's what blood magic is, and then you can use your own blood to like essentially like change the world around you and do crazy shit, right?
It sounds
Um,
like what you're telling me is that Dragon Age has always had thinly veiled allegories.
sure, but it's just really badass and cool at the same time. That's what it really
Well, I
comes down
mean,
to.
just people are all of a sudden mad about it, but were people not mad about it before that it was like,
No, there weren't, and there was a trans character before the first Dragon Age. Well, the first Dragon Age Origins game had one of the first openly gay characters. Like, he was openly gay. Like, and
mm-hmm.
he was actively trying to seduce you if you were a male protagonist. You told him to go fuck himself.
So has it gotten like
But
worse or something, or just people
so
are
no,
idiots?
I'll get to there. So Dragon
Okay.
Age Origins has all this fucked up shit. If you're playing an elf character, everyone is horribly racist to you. You know, there's human sacrifice going on. There's wizards that are hiding from this thing called the Chantry because mages can do this fucked up thing. And there's all these nations that broke away from the magical empire, right? And they hate mages. Like that's their thing. Like they hate magic, and only certain individuals who are cursed with like dreams and shit can be magicians, right? And so they seal all these magicians, like they literally like they will take, it's like the Jedi, right? Kind of like the same concept, except it's like a lot more dark. Like, well, they will take your children away from you if they exhibit any signs, and they will kill your child. Like there's references to children getting killed by like these, they're called Templars, right? Which is they get fed this like, it's really fucked up. They get fed like magical opium, which gives them magical powers in themselves, but they use that magic to fight mages, right? That's how they manifest their magic, because it's all about personal belief. It's all about imagination. That's how the magic kind of works, right? And so, but they, at the end of the day, they're like mage hunters, right? And they hunt children, and they hunt anybody who just signs any signs of magic. And they're also like, they believe in they're Androstian, so they have like faith behind it too, right? They're zealots, right, of their faith. And like it's all gritty and it's all dark, and mages are dying all the time. They're hiding like second class citizens, and elves are all living in slums in the major cities. And then in Dragon Age 2, so these people of faith, right? They get together and they like worship in these things called chantries, right? Dragon Age 2, halfway through it, one of your sub companions just is a mage who can't take it anymore, and he goes and he blows up a chantry when like they're practicing faith. Like in the middle of like Sunday service, he blows up a church essentially, right? And it's horrible. Like it's just awful. Like there's a bunch of shit happening, and then like they do a magical purge where they just start killing mages. Like they're supposed to protect them, and really they just start killing them and executing them, and like treating it's really intense, right? And then Dragon Age Inquisition comes around, and then the mages and Templars, like it's spread to like that incident, like that chantry being blown up, spread to the rest of the world, right? And now the mages are like, there was like a mass execution of mages going on, and they all banded together and like started fighting the Templars in a giant war, because they are super powerful, right? They have magical energy that other people don't have, right? In Dragon Age, the thing I like about it the most is that some people are in dark fantasy and other people are in high fantasy, right? And sometimes when those worlds mix, like the low fantasy people just start dying in like droves and shit like that. Like, they're just common people. And there's like demons that will come and like when they possess mages and then go out into the world and like will try and pull followers, then make cults, and like there's sex demons, right? They're called demons of lust. They're there, like, there's one quest in Dragon Age Origins where you can fuck over two of your side characters just to fuck a demon, right? They like that's the kind of options they
And
were giving you.
did you do that?
No, I didn't do that. I never could, because I just didn't think the Demon of Lust was that attractive, to be
Ugh.
honest with you, because she's bald as fuck. So
Ugh.
I'm just not into. Yeah, I'm just not into that.
Bald.
So exactly, I just hone in on that. And like, you have no power over me, demon. And I always play. I like playing wizards. You know me. I'm a mage main, like, right. So I'm always playing like these characters that are always being tracked. I would play elven mages who are treated like second class citizens, and also everybody's afraid of you, right? So there's all these gritty things.
Did
Everyone's racist. Like there's blood magic going on. There's massive sacrifice. Dragon Age Inquisition. The Templars and mages are fighting a war, and the mages fight so hard that they literally break like a little bit in the veil, and demons start invading and like killing people in cities en masse, and it's horrible, right? And you see like when demons possess people, like they twist them, like like it's a conjuring, right? There's a lot of conjuring, like
sure.
conjuring horror type stuff going on, right? And then you get to Veilguard, and it's like just it feels like all like they wrote the horrible sequel to this, like what's going on, right? And they locked it away in a vault for 10 years. And then they like, okay guys, we need to make a game this year. So they went to the vault and they drug it out. Let's make the sequel to Inquisition. Oh, yeah, sure.
Does it feel like
Let's get some
a fanfic?
let's get some 19-year-old Zoomer writing aid to write this. That'll be fine. Just fresh
Mm,
out of college. We don't want to pay too much because the plot's already there. We just need someone to connect the plot and write some side characters that some people will love.
gotcha.
So,
So it's
and
dog shit.
that's what's going on in Veilguard. The game, and also here's another thing: is like, and let's put our B team guys on the gameplay and not give a fuck about them and let them do whatever the fuck. But they forgot, Cage. They forgot. The origins of good game making is a bunch of dudes with no responsibility sitting around smoking weed and making video games. So they made great gameplay that is super fun, and it's connected to this story where all of the racism has been washed away, all of the evil blood magic stuff and all of that's just washed away too. all of the demons possess, like there's some of that, there's a little bit of that, but it's like all the dark stuff the Dragon Age was famous for is all like washed away, right? And it's just so
Hmm.
Zoomer-esque, and it feels very millennial. It feels
So
really
racism's
millennial.
bad, and it will disappear if we just ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and like, and there's like
But
and
the
there's
real
so this
question
character.
is, the real like this is
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask the question that really matters here. When you're
Okay.
playing the elf who's a second-rate citizen,
Hmm.
does the lust demon treat you like a second-class citizen,
No, no,
okay?
no,
So
no, she
the lust
doesn't. She just
demons are
wants to.
not racist. They will
No,
just
they are
they
not.
will fuck anyone.
Demons are not racist. It's good.
Gotcha.
I'm glad to report here that demons are not racist. They will possess
They will
anyone of any race, color, creed, or sexual identity.
they will fuck you as
Um,
long as you give them human sacrifices. Got it. And betray your
exactly. Yep,
friends.
yep.
Okay.
And
Yep.
betray your friends for a simple night of pleasure. Yep,
Yeah. Okay.
yep.
Even if you're a
So
second-class
it's just
citizen.
the plot feels very like, and it's weird because again, there's the things from, okay, there's this character Solus, right? Elves have literally been enslaved. They are still treated like second class citizens. They are gathered into ghettos, like in the fantasy towns and stuff like that, where that's the only place where they're allowed to live. And all that, like when you're an elf in Dragon Age Origins, the starting elf story is if you're not a magician, because then you've already been taken to a tower where they keep you under lock and key. But this, you start in an elf slum, and a noble sons come in and kidnap your sister so they can take her back to her mansion so they can have her way with her, have their way with her. That's the story, right? And then what happens is that you become this thing called the Grey Warden, which is like you're going to go fight these evil demons called Darkspawn, which are like, there's like, it goes so Darkspawn, real quick, like there's evil blood from an evil god that's spilt out, and like if you drink it, you either become like this twisted fucked up person, or you become like a super warrior, because like you can adjust to, like, the evil, having evil blood in your veins, but eventually you go insane. The Grey Wardens are really really cool. I really like the Grey Wardens. They're a great faction, right?
Hmm.
And that's how your character gets out of that situation, because you go in there and you shiv that noble. Basically, you kill the noble and all his friends, and then like the Grey Warden comes and like, yeah, you killed all these nobles and their guards. Yeah, I want you. And he says like, I invoke the right of conscription, which basically like all the, because the Grey Warden saved the world back in the day. So there's this ancient right called the right of conscription, which basically means the Grey Warden, because you don't want to be a Grey Warden, right? Because eventually you die. That's the only way you get out of the Grey Wardens, is by dying fighting Darkspawn, right? So they called it the right of conscription, was like they can recruit you immediately and you have to go fight for them. And but also like, all of your past like wrongs are gone. Like criminals can invoke the right of conscription, right? But they don't want to because they're greedy, and the Grey Wardens will kill them if they try to get out of it. Like they literally kill people to try to get out of it. So all that cool stuff is just gone.
Mm.
There's some cool set pieces and stuff like that, but the story, and there's cool plot pieces that I've seen from, again, like, again, they're being treated like shit, like the elves, right? That's why I started that story in the first place. Sorry, sometimes I get lost. So that's why Solus, this character who is one of these leftover elven gods, like, he the reason he wanted the elves to stop getting treated like shit, so he put those gods, like he sealed up the, they're just wizards, right? They're just elven wizards that became too powerful, and he sealed them all away with the Fade. And he's just tired of, and then elves lost all their magical power, and then the humans treated them like shit because humans are more powerful in physical combat, right? That was
Mhm.
like the whole
Mhm.
dichotomy, is like, and that's how the stats broke down too. In Dragon Age Origins, your races had different stats. And then, the humans could overwhelm them in mass and stuff like that, and they took all the elven magic, and there were human mages too and stuff, all this stuff. And he was just sick of it, right? He was sick of it all. Like everywhere he went, the elves were being treated like shit. Like nothing changed. So he was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go back to all my old ancient outposts from way back in the day. I'm gonna get my ancient artifacts. I'm gonna break the veil, and like I'm gonna unleash
Mhm.
demons into the world. Right? They're basically like, the world was a different place when the veil was there, right?
Yeah,
So
was there
that's
like
plot.
an HR department at that point or something?
No, there's no HR department.
Okay.
This is just soulless. This is just soulless, tired of the elves being racist. Like literally, like
Yeah, he
the
went to report him to
ever.
HR.
No, he's like fuck this. I'm starting a revolution. Like he was gathering a bunch of elves to his side and starting this underground resistance, right? And he was
Mm.
gonna shatter the veil. That's why it's called Dragon Age Veilguard. And you're just playing as this guy called Rook, and he's a total fuckboy. I don't know if he's like a different. I don't know if it's different as a female playthrough, but so far he's just a total like yes man fuckboy that solves everything.
He
It
would
feels like
totally
you're
give
getting.
up his two best friends to fuck a bald demon chick.
Well, he could if you wanted to, but it's
He
just
would.
like
He would.
The voice acting is just really uninspired. You just get railroaded through these different set pieces, and they like throw characters at you from different games that you used to know.
Mm.
And then you go see these cool plot points from Dragon Age, the sequel to Dragon Age Inquisition, Dude, I'm a hardcore Dragon Age fan, right? I've
I
been
can
lore
tell.
dumping for
I
the
can
last
tell.
I've been lore dumping for the last 20 minutes.
Hmm.
Okay, I am a hardcore Dragon Age fan. I really love this series. So that's why I have such mixed feelings about it. Because one, Dragon Age 2 was not very well received. It was a complete commercial flop. Everyone thought the Dragon Age was going to go away after Dragon Age 2, right? Because it was just Dragon Age 2 was just mishandled. It had a great plot, but the game was not finished, and the game, more importantly, the gameplay was not finished, right?
Oh, so they were ahead of the
I think
curve. They were releasing unfinished games back in like 2010 when it
yes.
was like not
Yeah.
cool. When
Yeah,
it
that's
now
what
it's like
BioWare
common.
wasn't famous for, dude. Like Kodar, the original Knights of the Old Republic, there's a really good mod that I want you to play someday called the Cut Content mod, where essentially a team of indie developers for 5 years m- restored all the cut content from Knights of the Old Republic and made it work. And like, added like 10 new quests. All the voice acting was there. All the set pieces were there. It was just cut for some reason or another, right? Kodar BioWare's been doing that since day one, homie. Since day one, BioWare's been doing that shit, right?
Well, now everyone does it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now everyone just releases unfinished,
Now
unpolished games.
now
It
everyone
says,
releases now everyone releases, oh, well, my game's in early access, like Satisfactory now it's at early access and I love it and it's fantastic.
yeah.
Um
I just imagine second-class citizen elves just sitting around going, "I would give up anything to fuck some bald lust demon right now." And then the lust demon just shows up and he sacrifices all his village or whatever. Bro,
yeah,
because when
no,
you're treated
that's
like shit,
no,
hey.
if they're a wizard, if they have a magical connection through this, like, so there's this thing like the veil, right? Some humans are born and able to just reach through the veil no problem, and they can talk and communicate with demons, and then they can let the demons into their world through their body and give them super magical power. But then they start killing everyone, go on a rampage, and then the Templars, which I told you about already, right? The people who keep the mages in line, who however you think about it, they take magical meth essentially to give themselves magical powers, but they take this with training with their faith specifically to fight demons and like magical users, right? So that's like kind of how so it feels very natural and very immersive, right? There's like a push and pull between the two factions. It's a very natural kind of power, right? And you understand why people are afraid because you're right. What if the kid who's been treating like shit actually has magical powers? This has been a story that's told in Dragon Age Origins, right? There's this whole plot about them. One of the major plot points was about a kid who is a royal son who is being treated like shit by everybody, and his dad is going crazy, and just freaking decided to let a bunch of demons in because he was a super mage essentially,
Mm.
right? And he let demons run rampant, and they killed everybody. They killed other children. They like ran them out of the castle. Like they tortured and demented people. It was
Jesus.
all kinds of crazy shit, dude. Dragon Age Origins was fucking crazy with how much they pushed the plot, right? There was direct references to sexual assault in Dragon Age Origins. Like I've never ever seen another game be like that, like out about like how horrible the world can be. So
Yeah. So another
yeah, so
really important question: if the
okay.
Templars overdose on magical meth,
They
um,
die.
do they? Oh, they don't have magical Narcan or anything to save them.
No, they die.
They just
And
over.
like there's another thing too, like that church I was talking about, right? They get addicted to the magical meth over time, and if they don't
Mm.
take it, like they get the shakes, and then they fucking get heart attacks, and then they like start having bad dreams and shit like that, right?
So
So the
no magical methadone or Narcan or anything to save them.
no, no, just the meth, just the meth. So
So in
the
this
so the
advanced
chant
magical civilization, they can't make an
it's not
antidote
ad-
to.
it's not advanced. It's not
But it's
advanced.
magical.
It's just because it's magical. People use magic for wrong things, right? They just use it to control and conquer other people,
Sure, but
right?
they should also make
That's what.
antidotes for.
But they didn't because they were too busy killing each other. We should have invented technology a lot earlier than we did, but we were too busy using technology to fly rockets into each other. So
Well, also,
yeah,
yeah, other things. So, yeah.
yeah, other things too. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But saying that being said, though, like the Tevinter like just didn't. They kept magic on lock and stuff like that. And again, like that's how like the church controls the Templars, right? Because they are a military faction of the church. They're also just very powerful. Like they also train as warriors. Like they give their life to war and whatever. There's a lot of stuff there too. They're like just Templars.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. It is really cool. I really just enjoy Dragon Age as a whole, and really do love the setting, as I keep proving it time and time again as I rant off about the lore. But Veilguard just feels really weak. And again, I'm happy. I'm happy that I'm getting the plot points that I wanted from. Again, it feels like that someone wrote parts, like the core parts of this game that you're going through, the main quest, right, and a few side quests. And it feels like whoever that person was, like they took all this They saved it onto a flash drive or wherever. They locked it into a vault in BioWare for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And then they just like, okay, guys, we need to put out a new game like that. And that whole team got washed away, and that is what happened in BioWare. All the old writing team is gone.
Yeah.
EA took over, so they have a game with good gameplay, with cool plot points that I enjoy, but also like really cringe side characters that are all just these super zoomer fantasy lover Renaissance fair type like characters,
So there's
and
poor execution, and they focus on things that don't matter.
yeah, and also at the same time, like, they have this cool lore, just like what's going on in Star Wars. They have this cool lore that they just actively ignore, and then there are dark themes that they could go into that I think a more adult audience would enjoy, and expand their audience to, or even more to edgy teens. So a lot of, I used to role play in Dragon Age, like not like, but like on forums, right? On forums, used to role play as Dragon Age, right? There were a lot of edgy teenagers there with me, like, nobody understands us, we're magic users, but that doesn't mean it's just kind of the edgy stuff, like the angsty stuff, like it had that mid-teen appeal, like, 'cause there was cool dark shit going on, right? And like all that's been washed away. It's just so shiny and it's so peppy and it's so quirky, and the character that everybody dislikes, the gender neutral Kunari, like, put all the coming out stuff aside, like, that's whatever. I don't care about that. That's just because, again, at the end of the day, in Dragon Age Origins, all the side characters were just fantasy tropes that people really enjoyed and wanted to hang out with, right? You had your drunken dwarf berserker, you had your quick talking gay elf guy who like really liked fancy things and like was a rogue and a swashbuckler and all those things. You had your like your kind of like your cleric lady who was like really holy but also like wanted to go about being holy in her own ways. You had a
Yeah.
character who was just straight up a witch, right? Straight up just a witch. You had two of those characters actually. You had one witch that was like a white, like the white and black dichotomy and like white and black magic and stuff like that. You had
Yeah.
one witch that was kind of like a good witch and one witch that was like a bad witch, right? And who else did you have in that game?
I feel like
Trying to think of
there's a
like,
way to do those things that maybe in the
yeah,
old
but
Dragon
they were
Age games they
engaged.
did like
Yeah,
properly, but like
they were
it's
engaging.
yeah, and
Yeah,
it's just a
exactly. Like,
problem when it's like like
like,
a lot of people think Lando Calrissian is gay at this point,
mm,
right? But like he's never
mm,
explicitly gay. Like, but if he was just sitting
yeah.
there talking to Han Solo, like, yeah, bro, I love sucking dicks, bro. Like, don't judge me for that. Like, people are gonna be like, bro, that's fucking weird. Like, we don't need this in our movie, right? And I think
Yeah,
like
and it's weird because it's not that on the nose in the game so far, right? It's
yeah,
not that on the nose, but she comes into a lot. This character, this they them characters, gender neutral character, comes into a lot of positions where they're just screaming, "You don't tell me who I am!" Like, because here's the thing, right? Okay, so I'm gonna go into this. The Kunari, right? They're a race of like dragon people, right? They have horns. They all follow this extreme religion, and this has been mentioned in the original game, called the oh that's right, you get Stev. That's Stev is in the first game too. So it's called the Qun. The religion is called the Qun. It's the super orthodox religion where your entire life is planned out by your elders and you're like you have to follow a life path set forth by you, right? The best example I give is like there's a character called Iron Bull in Dragon Age Inquisition, was an amazing character. Everybody loves him. He was an agent of the Qun, but eventually he leaves for different reasons. It's a whole plot thing. We don't need to get into it, right? But he says like if your elders in like the Qun like churches told you you're going to be a baker for the rest of your life, you were literally going to be a baker for the rest of your life and you couldn't do anything else. And that like so the religion's very extreme, right? And it's called the Qun Empire. It has like direct correlations with like what we know as like Islam and stuff like that. And we don't need to get, but it was
again,
but it's
thinly
really
veiled
cool.
allegories. Got it.
Yeah, but it was really cool, right? It was, at least it was done in a cool, interesting way that was very compelling, right?
Yeah.
And like the thing about the Qun is like everyone's racist against elves. Like in the Qun, they don't care. Like you show up, you submit to the Qun, you get to live your life like in peace essentially. And like they even pick like the warriors in Ferelden, the main in Ferelden, right? In Orlais and Ferelden, it was they still had the thing where women weren't really supposed to be fighting most of the time, right? That wasn't like a thing, like and in a dwarf society was like that a lot too, but then they had like but in lore they had a reason why women started fighting because there's all this stuff, and they had like the silent sisters, like girls who would cut their tongues out and all they would do is fight, and all this cool, there's all this cool lore, right? But Ogren, so he was well executed because yes, he was this drunk dwarf, but part of his story was about him coming into sobriety, taking on personal responsibility in his life, and becoming a more well-grounded individual. And like, having he either joins the Grey Wardens, and becomes like this super warrior who's like fighting to the end, or he has like 9 kids, right? He like moves back in with dwarf society and has 9 kids, and like and it's just it's really well done, right? But he's still a walking dwarf stereotype most of the time. He's just this drunken dwarf berserker. That's who he is,
Yeah.
and he says all of the lines, and he talks about drinking too much and all this stuff, but also yeah, he's like a character. He's a living character, right? Like he has like his wants, his needs, things that compel him to still be living even after he was part of this thing called the Dead Legion for a while, which is what dwarven criminals, because dwarves live underground where the darkspawn are, right? That's where the darkspawn come from. They come from the underground. The dwarves were the first race to encounter the darkspawn, and it destroyed their society completely and totally, right? A bunch of dwarves fled dwarven society to go live in human, like and they were humans like them a lot better for different reasons, because they like enjoy with dwarves, like because they're both greedy and all this kind of stuff, and it's whatever, right? But like it destroyed, and like the dwarves are holding on by a knife's edge. And Dragon Age Origins, you go underground and you're exploring all the ancient dwarven cities and stuff like that, right? That have been taken over by Darkspawn, which are like these evil flesh beasts that like they feed. So like they kidnap females and they turn them into spawning creatures that are like kind of like fate, kind of like what the face huggers do, right? But it's like a permanent change where they're always spewing out darkspawn, and it's really disgusting, right? And it's just really evil and gross. And so Ogren was fighting in that for a long time. He was a dwarven criminal. Says, okay, we can either chop your head off in front of everybody, or we can give you a sword and axe, and you can go join the Dead Legions that fight Darkspawn all day, right? So he went and joined the Dead Legions, and that's what he did for like 10 years. And then he came back, and all this stuff happened, and there's reason he was allowed to come back and all this shit. And yeah, so, and he's just a really compelling character, right? That's what I'm trying to get through. Is that he is a dwarven stereotype, but also he's a very compelling character because, like you said, he's well executed. All the important things are at the forefront. Like I'm sure you would enjoy even like his story about sobriety and everything that stuff like that. Because I know sobriety is an important part of your life, right? So it's just yeah,
Is it an
and it's
important part of my life?
well, you talk about it a lot, so I feel like it is an important part of your life.
I only talk about it when people bring it up, okay?
Okay, well, like just now.
Yes.
But either way, what I'm trying to convey is that Ogren is like just a really well done character, and and again, all the characters like that, right? All of the characters are stereotypes of like fantasy trope. They're a bundle of fantasy tropes tied together in a way that makes sense, because like oh, we like the fantasy drunkard, we like the fantasy berserker, and we like dwarves, and we associate both those things with dwarves. So we're gonna tie all these tropes together, but also we're gonna make a character that everybody likes. Obviously I like Ogren because I played Dragon Age Origins through like 23, like 30 different times. It's one of the few games I owned when I was a teenager. So I played through it a bunch, and I know all these stories and stuff like that. Like there's Leliana, which is like she was a nun essentially, but then she just started to wonder like about the things going on outside the world, and if she could actually change things because she took the chant. The reason they're called the chantry is because they don't believe in the Bible. Like they believe in the Bible, it's like a giant song though, right? So they like, they all, it's called the chant. And if the chant is sung in the four corners of the world, aka it's an evangelicalizing religion. If the chant is sung in the four corners of the world, and one day there'll be world peace or whatever the fuck. So so she believes in spreading the chant. So she left the cloister, and then you can like seduce her and all this stuff. But then eventually she starts to become jaded by the second game. But Dragon Age 2, she's this super jaded character that's kind of becoming like steeled. And then Dragon Age Inquisition, she's your spy master, and she's like assassinating people all the time and being hard as fuck, and like being extreme. And your character literally has to like pull her down from being extreme. Just, or you can make her like this hardcore assassin, or you can make her who she originally was, like this nun who left the chantry because she wanted to do good in the world, right? So again, like, and she's just a trope too. Like she's a bundle of fantasy tropes, and so is Morgan, and so is Zevlon. He's like, and yeah, so it was just good. And Veilguard, these characters are just not these things. They're not well done. They don't make me want to play. Like I want to play this game once, and then just to get the main plot out of the way, and then I don't want to play it again.
Hmm.
Dragon Age Origins, as you can tell, I played a lot because I love all these characters. I love the setting, and all tied together into a gameplay experience that I love, which is top down RPG, right? Dragon Age 2 was a little rougher, but I still played through it a couple times because I really did enjoy it, and it has some really hardcore moments. Like I said, like you said, that guy blowing up that church on Sunday morning, right? When everyone was in there practicing, right? There was a couple other things that happened in the game that were just as extreme. you know. So yeah, there's that going on too. And then in Dragon Age Inquisition, there's hardcore things going on all the time. The Inquisitor is like this really badass character. Like, you have you're the main character. It really makes you feel like the main character that has to make all these difficult decisions all the time. That game was all about decisions and hard decisions that you had to make in the moment. And sometimes there were decisions you made, no matter what decision you made, someone was gonna fucking die. Some innocence was gonna die somewhere. But that's the decision you have to make in the moment when you're in charge. It really gave you that feeling, that weight of responsibility, right? And you really did see you got like not just your companions, like the characters that were the characters again that are fantasy tropes that are written to be around you that you enjoy spending time with, but also side like just soldiers and blacksmiths and like rangers and other wizards that you were pulling into your orbit that believed in you as like a person, that you would do the side quest and then you would find these people like with you like that side quest, like the side quest you did meant so much to me, so we're here ready to fight and die for your cause. It's all this amazing good shit into like one of the best RPGs ever written, Dragon Age Inquisition. Please play that game. Like if you ever play a game, right?
Yeah.
Dragon Age Inquisition is a supremely good game.
You said
So
cloister.
yeah, that's what it is. That's what they call themselves, cloistered,
Cloister is
right? The
that
cloistered.
vagina Pokemon.
No,
See,
no, a cloister of nuns is a real thing. No, no, look up a cloister of nuns.
look at
It's spelled differently. CL.
rah,
Why do you have
rah.
Pokemon Go on your phone? That's the real question. Why haven't you added me yet?
I haven't played in like 2 years, but I still have the app. Do you play frequently still?
Sometimes when I have Pokeballs, what I do is when I run out of Pokeballs, like I just go to Pokestops and like or I spin it or
Listen,
so yeah.
I literally only use Pokemon Go if I'm like on vacation somewhere in a popular spot where there's like a bunch
Yeah.
of shit like
Tons of Pokestops. Yeah.
Monterey or like
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that,
absolutely. Absolutely. That when you go to the city is a good time to play Pokemon Go for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So, but yeah, cloister.
Yeah. So all this sounds is I really love Dragon Age. Now comes in Dragon Age Veilguard, right? I've been talking a lot of negative about it. The good thing I've talked up so far is it has really fun gameplay that I really do enjoy, and I have it cranked up to the hardest difficulty, and it is fucking hard. There's no doubt about that. I've died a lot. But it's still even then I said it's a good game and it's good gameplay, right? I'm happy because I'm getting the plot that I've wanted as a continuation of Dragon Age Inquisition 2. That's what it was, right? That's what obviously what the core of this game was, right? The plot. I'm happy to get that. I'm glad that the gameplay is good because people are playing it, right? People are playing the game
Oh
all the way
yeah.
through and saying, yeah, it was okay. I'm hoping that we get another Dragon Age game someday, or maybe it gets a little bit another more of a fair treatment. Because again, Dragon Age 2 was a complete commercial failure, and then they did a Hail Mary with Dragon Age Inquisition and this ghetto ass fucking game engine that barely worked. And they made it work, and they made it very compelling. Obviously, I'm talking it up now, 20 minutes over our usual runtime because I love Dragon Age. Like I love the world, I love the lore, I love the characters. I love the main characters because the main character was a character in its way, right? Over time, the Inquisitor is like a character in the world, right? That makes important decisions. And Veilguard, it sucks that the character. It sucks that it got like this treatment. I really feel like EA just said, "Hey guys, you got to make a game this year. Okay, why don't you make like the new Dragon Age or whatever?" And then
Yeah,
it
and
just
EA
got kicked
doesn't
to a
care if the
team.
game is shit. They just want to put it out.
Exactly. They just want to put out a game, and they put out a game and it has good gameplay. But the problem is, I know the plot's held together with duct tape because they use cutaways and they just have PowerPoint presentations of lore dumps.
They just have JPEGs.
They just have JPEGs and PowerPoint presentations of here's why what you did was important to the plot. Here's what's probably going to happen next in the
It's like
plot.
the loading screens where it's just JPEGs and then tips at the
Yes,
bottom, but instead of
yes,
tips, it's like actual lore.
it's really bad, dude. It's really fucking bad. It's really bad. Okay, like the care, like I don't care about the, I don't, yeah, I'm on the Reddit right with the other fans that actually genuinely love Dragon Age. I don't care about the gender neutral character. The first game had a dude who was super gay and was like trying to get your pants all the time, right? All the time. The second game had a character who was transgender. Nobody cared about that because he was being possessed by a female demon. Nobody cared. In the fourth, so did Dragon Age Inquisition. It had a bunch of different characters who were on the queer, who were on the spectrum, and all that kind of stuff, right? Nobody cared because they were well written. Now they care because It's just one thing to focus on a sea of bad when I'm there in Reddit, which is basically just forums of 2000s passed on into Reddit. Other fans are like, yeah, dude, like the game is not the best. Like it just has really weak dialogue. All the writing is super weak. The plot feels paper thin. I just love the good chunky plot from Inquisition that I'm getting,
Yeah.
and that's what I think about Dragon Age Veilguard, is that it's just the game, the plot of the sequel to Inquisition was written, it was sealed away. They brought it, EA and BioWare brought it out because they needed to make a game. They hired some writing aides or something like that. I don't know. I haven't Googled. It could be the Inquisition team, but I don't know. But so much time has passed that the humor and the quirkiness and all the things that are acceptable now that were not acceptable back then, it's just way too hard in this game, and the game suffers for it, and it's held up because it has really solid gameplay. But I do not at this point. I do not see myself playing through it a second time. I'm gonna after we finish up here, after I stop yapping. I'm going to finish. I'm gonna get some pizza. I'm gonna go pick up that pizza. I'm gonna come home and play Veilguard because I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play through the main quest and a few of the side quests, and then I'm just gonna beat it. I'm gonna uninstall it, and I'm probably never gonna play it again.
All right. Fair
As
enough.
of right now, so that's like my opinion of Veilguard so far. Maybe the plot will be better. They've had really cool set pieces. The one thing I will give it is like when you go to to Venture, right? Those mages that conquer the world for 1,000 years. That's what happened. And then the world revolted against them, right? And formed all these different independent nations and all this kind of stuff, right? And so that you go to the capital city and it's still really grand because it's like, a city with 2,000 years of imperial legacy. And there's like floating buildings everywhere and it looks really cool. And that's it. It looks really cool. And then the shitty plot is happening in these cool set pieces. And then sometimes you get the cool plot that you want. And and it just sucks. And I wish I couldn't have gotten a better Dragon Age game. But I'm just happy to get more Dragon Age content for right now. And maybe after this, after I beat a few games on my slate that I've been trying to beat for a long time, I'll come back and I'll play Dragon Age Origins again, and I'll be happy boy.
Perfect.
Yeah. What do you think about all that?
I
About my
think
rantings, about my ravings?
if we ever do a review of anything again and you have very little to say, then you probably didn't like it very much.
It's either I'm all in or I'm not in.
we're gonna review something and be like, yeah, I thought it was really good. No one's gonna believe you because you only talked about it for like 3 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
I really think
Yeah.
you hated Agatha at this point.
I didn't hate it. I just wasn't compelled by it the way you did. Like it seemed like there were a lot of little things in Agatha that you really appreciated that kind of went over my head, right? I think that's the first thing you said was, "Oh, it was really cool to see the Salem 7 and then and the Witches Road and stuff like that." It has like but you did talk
It's
it
just
up,
deep lore, like
and
they
I,
dug
and
deep
I
for
think
that.
you as a comic book fan appreciate that probably more than I do, right? Come on.
Not
Admit
really.
your own
It's just
internal
like
biases. We
it's
all have them. We all have them. It's
yes,
okay.
we do,
Okay.
we do. But
Yeah.
no, I appreciate that they include things from deep lore, but I also appreciate that they don't make people feel dumb for not knowing who they are, because they repurpose them too.
Yeah.
Like Nicholas Scratch led the Salem 7 in the comic books. Nicholas Scratch is not present here at all. These are just witches that were, coming
Killed
to
by
Agatha,
Agatha,
right? So
over the years. Yeah.
yeah, completely repurposed. But like that's deep lore, the Salem 7 in general, right? And it makes nerds go, oh my god, guys, I'm coming. Oh my god, the Salem 7. And then they change it like, fuck it, they ruin everything. They don't care about comic books and the lore, and they don't care about fans. So, yeah. So I don't know. Just enjoy things.
Yeah, just enjoy things for sure. I enjoyed the parts of Agatha that I didn't. I kind of tuned out for the parts that I thought were more boring. I still stand by my saying one thing. The things happening in the house, even if they were all interconnected and such, there were a lot of things that felt very kind of like, oh, we got to solve these riddles because we got to build team cohesion, And then that changed a little bit, but it's still like the theme of those episodes is very much that at the moment, And you're supposed to notice all these little things if you go back and watch them again. You're like, oh yeah, like that connects to this and that connects to that, but it's still spread out through that whole episode of 40 minutes.
The purpose of the houses was that's what Billy believed the road was is a series of trials and tests.
Yeah.
And so that's why they exist, and that's why they were tested, and that's why people died because of him.
Yep. including people he liked.
Yep. Chaos magic.
Yep.
But yeah.
Anyway, though, do you have any more thoughts about my ramblings about Dragon Age? Anything deep to share? Any good thoughts? I mean,
No.
like you said, I just care that it was of quality. Like Dragon Age Origins is of quality, so that's why I enjoyed it, and it really pulled me in again. It
Yeah.
has like you said, the thinly veiled thinly veiled things, but they're all well
Allegory.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah, thinly veiled allegory, thinly veiled stereotypical fantasy characters, stereotypical fantasy plots, but
Yeah.
it was all really well done, and it had like this edge. It had this edge. It was edgy. Like I know people hate that when things are intentionally edgy, but it was edgy, and that was good. That was a good thing that it was edgy, because it was different. And
Yeah.
it sucks, man. It sucks that Veilguard has absolutely lost that edge. It feels very cartoony.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Yep, and I'm just hoping one day the mighty will rise again, and we'll get
Yeah.
like a new Dragon Age game with people that care about they really care about bringing that edge back. Because I think that was a core integral part of Dragon Age. The more fans I talk to, I just think the fact that it was a little fucked up is like kind of part of why they like it. That
Yeah.
this child can invite a demon into his life that'll fuck with people and destroy them.
Well,
Like it
I
was
mean, that's part of the success of
so.
things like Game of Thrones as well, right? Like,
Yeah. Like a child was murdered, and they attempted to murder a child in the first episode to conceal their incestuous relationship.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it is on its core. Like, that started a lot of the things. Like, if Jamie, if he would have died when he fell out that window and would have been able to like talk about things, like nothing would have happened. And
Yeah,
if he
but then
didn't
we
see
wouldn't
them,
have
like
got the most interesting story of all, the story
all
of
time,
Bran the Broken,
broken
who should be king because he has an interesting story.
story. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
All right, time to go eat and enjoy our
Yep.
Thursday night. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Share your thoughts.
Yep.
If you want to talk about Dragon Age with Chair, feel free to
Yep.
reach out. Much love. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, blah blah. Bye.
Bye.